Thanks. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Just to reiterate Jill's comments, please do enter your questions as they occur to you. We'll queue them up and answer them in the order in which they're entered. We do typically have quite a few questions on these webinars, so get those cards and letters in early. For those of you who attended our late March presentation, I'll warn you in advance, my jokes are going to be the same, but the software will be a little more improved and much more stable since it's released. The agenda today is pretty simple. I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute overview of what's in Iron Speed Designer V10. Then we'll move on to the more interesting part, which is the actual demo. And then we'll take questions and feedback at the end. And just to remind you all, do get those in sooner than later. So let's dig in. First and foremost, of course, V10 supports a whole raft of more recent Microsoft products, specifically Windows 8, the .NET Framework 4.5, and Visual Studio 2012, Microsoft SQL Server 2012, and a few other odds and ends along the way. That's probably what many of you have been waiting on. But we've also made Iron Speed Designer V10 out of the box awesome. It continues the trend that we started a few releases ago with introducing some much more contemporary page styles and so forth. Like this one from the Amarone theme. This is a new enhanced gallery page. You'll notice here that there's an overlay that shows data on a gradient overlaying the underlying picture. It's tiled together in a much more contemporary style and so forth. And so those are some of the new page styles, page types that we've introduced in V10. We've also introduced some more contemporary HTML in some of these particular themes. For example, while you can't see it here on a slide, Carol will demonstrate it. In this particular theme, the masthead up here, the title is centered, and then there's a menu underneath. And that's fixed on screen. It doesn't scroll. The rest of the page scrolls underneath it, which is also a contemporary type of style that you see on a lot of modern websites these days. We're also replacing the large list selector with a new quick selector control. For those of you who have used the large list selector in the past, it kind of appears when it's reached a threshold, typically either 100 or 500 entries in a drop-down list. And once that threshold is hit, then you get the large list selector that allows you to select from potentially millions of different records. Problem with the large list selector, though, it was very clunky and very difficult to use. And for those of you who have ever attempted to customize it, it was a bit of a challenge to do that on a one-off basis. We've replaced that with a new quick selector control that just appears as a default now. And it appears as a normal button. You can see that underlying here like the meat and poultry or the supplier here for the category of the supplier. So you click the button and what happens is this control pops up. It's very, very quick and it shows you all of the items in that table. It could be a short table with just half a dozen, 10, 12 entries in it. It could be a large table with tens of millions of entries in it. If that's the case, then you just go here and search for what you're looking for and select, and you're on your way. You can also put multiple columns in here. This is a simple one that shows only one column, but you can configure these on a case-by-case basis and drag multiple columns into this particular quick selector control to customize for each individual use. There's also the ability to pop open a quick add dialog as well that's associated with this that allows you, again, in a pop-up dialog to enter a new record that is immediately added and immediately available for you to select. Next, we've added some built-in mapping features. And a lot of this you access through our formula language, which is, as you know, some releases ago became a central feature of Iron Speed Designer, and you use Google Maps here the same exact way. And we've got a number of extensions to our formula language, which Carol will be reviewing, and he'll show you how it's just literally a one-line formula. You can display a map like this. We've also added geo-proximity filtering. Now that's kind of a mouthful. What does all that mean? What that really does is it answers the question, show me stuff within a few miles of my current location. Okay? So if you have a latitude and longitude, a particular point in space, and really what you want to do is find all the records that appear within a particular radius around that location. That's what geo-proximity filtering does. And it works pretty much the same way that a normal where clause would, except we've extended our query language to the query wizard to accommodate that kind of more of a fuzzy query than an exact query, where a calculation has to be performed in order to execute the query. You see that here, within 5 miles of the browser location. Browser location is a new formula function that we've added to Iron Speed Designer V10 that you'll find comes in handy. But of course you can use a lat and a long out of a database instead of the browser location. Just depends on what you're trying to do. Plus we've added a secret new feature that we don't really talk a lot about, but is a lot easier to show you than it is to explain it. The short explanation is this. We've added a capability in Iron Speed Designer V10 where you're now able to link and use tables from multiple databases where the databases and the tables and the field names can all have the same name. So you can have 2 customer tables in 2 different databases, both called customers, and you can link and use both of those now in your application. Again, that's a lot easier to see when Carol demonstrates it than when I talk about it, but that's kind of the essence of it. With that, now I'm going to turn it over to Carol and let him take it from there.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending where you are. Okay, my screen looks like appeared, and right now we are looking at Amarone theme in the application which was generated for this webinar. And let me first start with the live application running in the browser. So as Alan mentioned, in Amarone theme, we have several new neat features, such as, for example, fixed header. So right now my content is, you can go up and down. I can scroll it while the header stands put. Also, you might notice that the fonts on the menu are different, and these are Google fonts. Effectively, for this particular page, we download and use Google fonts. We think that this particular font is rather contemporary, and it looks better, but of course you can change it, and you can use any built-in font or change the font you download from Google. Well, the color scheme is also interesting, and then let me immediately go to another feature, and this feature would be geo-proximity or geolocation or mapping. You can call it anyway, but the idea was to give you easy functionality to show the location, to show the map, and sort by proximity to location, and maybe filter by the distance from the location. So right now we can see the maps for each of the addresses. And let's do the following. Let's go to Designer and, for example, restrict users from, show only users which are close to specific location and sort by proximity. So which location would I take? In this standard sample database, we don't have anybody close to our Sarhade location, so I wouldn't use my browser location. I can, but if I do this, we won't see anybody because obviously these people are in Seattle and in London, UK. So let me grab one of the addresses of those people. For example, I don't know, why not using, for example, Laura Callahan? Oops. So what do? I can click on the map, and the map opens in the new window, and now you have normal Google map. You can do whatever you do with the Google map, and I can grab this location. I just click on this and ask what's here, and here my latitude and longitude. So let me just copy this location. I don't need it here anymore. And now I'll switch back to Designer, the same page, and I will filter all the users and show only those people who are in 500 miles from this location, and also sort them by proximity to location. So it's extremely simple. All I do is I go to data sources. I click edit my data source. It in the query wizard, I say I want to add new where clause, but it would be geo-proximity clause. So at geo-proximity, instead of getting browser location, I will just say use location I just found out over there. The only thing is that I need to have here semicolon, not a column, and of course we have help, which explains the syntaxes. And radius, I'm not sure 50 is enough. Let's make it 500. So I click OK on this. Now it asks me the order by clause already set. Do I want to remove it and sort by geo-proximity? Yes, why not? I want to show how I can sort by geo-proximity, and we can go to order by step and see that now it's ascending by geo-proximity and click finish on it. That's about it. So now we will filter users and build it. We will filter users so to show only those which are close to Seattle in 500 miles. So obviously those who are in London will not show anymore. And the sort will be different because they will be sorted by proximity to, I forgot whom I selected for that, but let's switch it back. So, okay, now it's built. Let's go back. So we will show them by proximity to Laura Callahan. So all I need to do here is to refresh the page and see what will happen. So, for example, Anne Duxworth was from London. So she might not be showing for us on this page anymore. Give it a second. Now we can see, first of all, Laura is first because she is closest to herself. Then you can see that they're actually sorted by proximity because here is Seattle. Then we go from Seattle to Kirkland, Washington, but it's still Washington. It's closer than London, but we don't see anybody from London anymore. So there's Redmond, etc. So that's how it works, pretty simple. Now, how the map is showing. Again, everything is done by formulas. Let me close it, actually. Let me mark it this way, so next time it will close automatically. So let's see the Google map. It's simple formula. In this case, we pass parameter as a literally combination of fields, and this is address plus city plus region, and here is the size of the map which we are showing, and there are some other parameters possible. We have multiple signatures for this formula. You can pass latitude and longitude as a location. You can pass browser location. You can pass the address of the location, and so on. All of this will work. We have all this functionality is implemented in the formulas, and effectively when you would need to add your own signature maybe to do something else, it's fairly simple to do. I mean, if you can say, oh, you know what, I want to use Google Map, but I want some additional functionality which is now available through the API from Google. How do I do this? Well, of course, it could be the case because, well, Google also doesn't stand still. They might develop some new signatures, new functionality. So what you do is you go to base formula utils. Let me show all files, all source files. So you go to base formula utils over here in the data access layer. And there's a big section, and a quite sizable section, of formulas related to geo-proximity. So let me just jump there. Let's say, for example, if I show the Google Map, we will get exactly in this region. It's a big region, and there is a bunch of functions, and you can see that those functions are implemented in a straightforward way. You can have different signatures, and then they create a map. And if you look at the create map function itself, you will see how we pass it to create map, for example. If I want to use new signature and Google change something in their API, which could be over time, I just scroll here to create a map, and you can see how we literally create the call to the Google API. So we get the parameters, so we get sizes, and there are some functionality, create a string. It's a big function. Of course, you don't need to do anything now, but yet again, I'm trying to say that everything is open for you. And in the worst case scenario that Google announce a year from now that, okay, it's from now on, you need to change one parameter, otherwise it won't work. Possible. You can go here and change. And as well, all the functions are here. So anything you do with the maps, URLs, go directions, etc., everything is formula and everything is available for you. Let me switch back to Designer, actually, right here to my page back. Just one more thing to illustrate. For example, as I said, it's very easy to add any formula, just show you how you do it. Right-click as usual. then you see, okay, I want a function. What function do I want? I want geolocation function. Well, I can have a map display, then it would be different maps, like Google Map or directions or interactive map, which will allow to move right inside the frame. Or I can get a browser location, or I can advanced map display, and all of these is, or I can see the distance between different points. All of these are at your fingertip right here and the functions, and you kind of simply click on this, and then how to supply location. Again, very simple. You don't need even to look at the help. Right click, go to functions, and say, okay, my location would be my browser location. So we just select this, get browser location. Bam, that will work. It will show a map of my browser location. So pretty simple. Now let me show another features. The gallery, new gallery. We of course retained the old style gallery which we used before. Let's actually remove it for now. Don't want to build this page for now. So the traditional gallery. In this particular application, I called it plain to kind of show that it's different from the new overlay text gallery. So this is will be the traditional plain gallery, and that was the way how we implemented gallery before in the previous release. But now, if I go to browser to see this a bit bigger picture, if I go to the overlay text gallery, you see the same gallery, but now the text with the ID, and okay, of course it's configurable. You can have any amount of fields and configure them differently. It's shown on top of the image, and image has a gradient to make sure that your text is actually always visible. Next thing, let's jump to the new functionality, which would be the quick selector. So quick selector can replace, but not necessarily. You still have an option to use a drop-down list, and in some situations, drop-down lists are actually maybe better. For example, if you have pretty small amounts of data, or a lookup table where you have, let's say, US states which are not coming from database, you would use a drop-down list, because really, when you have only 50 items or even 10 items on the list, there's not much advantage of putting it up in a separate pop-up control where you can search it, because, well, let's face it, if there are 20 items, you can just show them in drop-down list and don't need to search them. Or alternatively, if you want to implement something like make model year dependent drop-down lists, again, drop-down lists would be a choice. So again, you have a full control over which control would you use. But in the lot of situations, quick selector is better control, and you can use it as a filter or as the value on the editable page. So when you use it in a filter, you can see nothing is filtered right now by. And these filters are configured to be multi-select filters, so I can have multiple selection right here on the page. So let me filter by whom they report to. I will select, for example, Andrew Fuller. No, actually, this way is single select, multiple select on another page. I'm sorry, I forget which page I configured. But that's how I select the value of the filter. All those people report to Andrew Fuller. Now, on my table control, I have multiple select. I just forget which page was which. And here, I can select that I want people who report to Fuller and who report, let's say, to Steve Buchanan. So I have two choices now, Fuller and Buchanan. I'm not sure if you can see through the Citrix. Sometimes the screen has less colors, but these guys have different color than other guys. I can go to the next page and come back. It's all supported, and then I click. Okay, I have two choices over here, and if I click go, I will see the users who, the sales representatives who report to either of those guys. So that's how it works. Now, for example, I can show you on the which page I'll better go to the product page. Let me go to product page, so I'll go to admin menu, switch to my other screen. It's actually a prototype of our new sample application. It's not finished yet. We're right now actually building several sample applications. This is the first prototype. So there could be some, actually I want to go to add page. You know what? That's what I wanted to go. So I have two fields over here on my add record page. One of them to add categories, which is foreign key from products, and the one suppliers, also foreign key from products. And if I click on this quick selector, I see list of categories. And now you've got a new button over here, because it's not a filter. It's a real field I want to add. And what if I want to add new category, which is not currently in the database. So I can click this Add button, and I will get my Add Record page. So Add Record page opens in place of the quick selector, and here is the neatly feed the page for the new category. Of course, I can edit, or I can just cancel it and go back to my page. So this is the kind of new functionality, and the main advantage of it is not just that it allows you to accommodate any size of the list, because as I mentioned, and as you can see right here, you have a search box, and you can type some search string, and if you have million record, you will still search for this record quite easily, which wasn't possible with the drop-down list, but also it actually makes performance of the page much faster. And that was one of our main goals, to make performance of the application better. Why it is so? Well, imagine that you have not one Add Record page, but editable page with bunch of foreign keys. I'm not sure I actually created one, but I can, but that's not the point. What I'm trying to say is that in this case, if all of those foreign keys were drop-down lists, you would need to run the queries to populate them. Even on the normal page, you need to run a separate query to populate a drop-down list for the filters. And if you populate 500 items, these are a query which runs and retrieves 500 items. If your table, which you point into, is large, each query can take time. Now it's not the case anymore, because it's just a button. You don't need to populate anything until you click this button. So even if you have 5 foreign keys and 25 records, it's still 25 buttons, which just have values from for this particular field. So you basically do not need to populate 25 times 5, 125 drop-down list, 500 or 100 items each. So the performance of the page much gets better. So that was one of the goals. Second goal was to give you ability to select between the records in the large table. Now let me go to another page and show that actually that what I mentioned before. Let me just show you how it is. If I go to Orders page and show you, so this again another page where the maps are built in. Also, you can see that we when we do it, the layout of the page is actually fine-tuned again, and you can see that we combine, and that's actually done out of the box. We combine dates and the audit fields and the fields related to the name together. And again, it could be scrolled, so this is one of the pages we create, and we can see that it's pretty nice. But what I wanted to show on this page actually is that you still can have drop-down lists. Again, as I said, it's your choice. So right here, for example, the same list is drop-down list. So you don't necessarily need to stick with the quick selector everywhere. Again, sometimes on the very short list, the drop-down list may be better. Now, so we looked at the gallery, we looked at the geo-proximity close, sorting, and the mapping. Let me show this secret feature which Alan mentioned. So let me go back to my application, and right now I'm using only Southwind database. It's kind of simple database, semi-standard, which is we include in every release, and you can see this field. So right now I have just one sales database, Southwind database with a standard set of tables, which is categories, orders, customers, etc. But let me do something which I wasn't able to do before on the previous releases. I will go to my application wizard and say, okay, you know what, I need to have another database, and in this case I'll add SQL Server, and my SQL Server would be one of our test servers which we have here. I called this guy QA Atlantic, and speed 1 is the login name. And now I will add Northwind database, which, as you might know, have actually same set of tables and same set of the field names. So basically, they're super similar. There's minor differences. And you notice that there was we had already categories, customers, orders, etc., suppliers. So let me add, for example, suppliers, which we have here, and shippers we have here. Same tables with exactly same fields. I don't want to configure anything else. I just click Finish. It will read the schema. Table definitions complete. Pages are built. and I don't need even to build the whole set of pages. All I wanted to show you that actually they were set by default to build, by the way. Now I remember. Okay, everything was done. And give it 1 second to compile. Okay, it's done. Now, it actually was configured to run in the designer. I should uncheck this because it takes some extra time, which I really don't want to spend here. So now you can see on my database tab, I've got a new database, and my new database has shipper suppliers plus some other tables included, and those tables have foreign keys to or from pointing to those tables, but you can see they can coexist at the same time. And there is some flexibility here when you can configure what will be default name suppliers. For example, in the case of Southwind, it was suppliers. In the case of Northwind, the name should be unique, of course. So it's suppliers one. You can change it to any name you want, but the idea of that is they can coexist altogether. Also, you can see that not every page has a business layer created now, because, well, those pages do not have relation to suppliers, for example, order details or employee territories. However, despite the fact, and let me switch to design mode, despite the fact that business layer for them is not built, I mean, there's no code files for them, but schema for them already created. And for example, if I go to my Samsung counts, I can expand my Northwind database and select count of, let's say, order details. And again, I can drag and drop this count here in my count of order details or order details extended, which are not built yet, but if I drag and drop this count, they magically will become included and the business layer will be built for them. So now you effectively have access to the objects from entire schema. And even if this table is not used up till now, you still can see it in the toolbox. You still can drag and drop controls such as count, sounds, or of course you can just drag and drop the form, let's say report for them or entry form. So I just want to expand reports, and I say my reports I want for unrelated tables. And again, I will see literally every table included in this database and order details as well, and customer demo as well, regardless of the fact that no code was built for them. So this is kind of new thing. We give you access to the whole schema, and it makes it easier. Last thing I wanted to mention is that I just jump on it and show you that Windows 8 actually works, and that 4.5 really works. So this is my other machine. It's Windows 8 machine. You can see my appearance. If I move somewhere here. Okay, my screen is not too big. I don't see this button, and I never could catch it. But I just believe me, this is a Windows 8 system. Actually, I can maybe make it a bit. It's difficult. I have two. I have remote desktop on top of remote desktop on top of remote desktop. So it's difficult for me to resize it, but believe me, this is Windows 8, and this is application running in Windows 8. So if I go, for example, to the toolbox or to the application wizard, I can easily see that this guy is now using 4.5 framework. Also, I can see here my button has different shape than we saw on my previous application, because this is the shape of Visual Studio 2012. And if I click this button, it will open Visual Studio 2012. Because that's the one which you use when you have 4.5 framework. And this is the live preview, and of course I can run the same thing in the browser. Where is my browser? 1 second. I have the browser somewhere already. Maybe I didn't run it yet, but so I can. Of course I can just run it. Not necessarily I already had it before. So here's my browser, and this would be, I'm not even sure which default browser on this computer. Looks like it is IE10, I think so. Yeah, I think it is IE10. So now we can see it runs in the browser and in the live preview, and it all runs on the 4.5 framework and uses Visual Studio 2012 on the Windows 8 machine. I think that was all I wanted to show. So I think now we can switch to our questions if we have some. I think we have some.
Thanks, Carol. That was was a great demo. I'll let you rest your voice for a few minutes, and I'll take a few of the easy questions here and let Carol handle the hard ones. Chris asks, were there any resx file changes in version 10.0.0? Yes, not a whole lot, but I can't ever remember doing a release where we didn't tweak the resx files one way or the other. For those of you that aren't familiar with a resx file, those are files where various little strings are stored that allow you to change those to implement various language translations, so you can switch from one language to the other in your application. And so, yes, and we did in fact update some of the language translations with version 10 as well. Mohammed asks, does the menu stick on top for all the modern templates or just a new template added in V10? I assume you're referring to the Amarone page style that we have by template, where the header and menu are locked at the top and the contents of the page scrolls underneath. That is specific to the Amarone page style. We'll be introducing other page styles in the future, I think, that have those same characteristics. But no, we did not add that capability to other page styles. Our view typically is that once a particular page style has a look and feel and it's been released, we try not to really modify it that much, because we found that many of our customers, once they build applications with a particular page style, kind of want the surety that it's not going to change. So we tend to add new features like that to new page styles in the future, but usually not to existing ones. John asks, do these new features of drop-down foreign key controls exist in the Everest theme, which is one of the classical themes from earlier versions of Iron Speed Designer? I assume by drop-down foreign key controls you're referring to the quick selector. And the answer is yes. The quick selector is available both in the modern as well as classic themes. Important to understand that when we talk about modern versus classic, those are really layouts. That's how your page is going to be laid out. And within one family or the other, the layouts tend to be almost identical. So, for example, the classic group or the classic family are all variable width pages. They're all left justified and can have any number of columns and are designed to be horizontally scrolled. The modern layout family are all fixed width pages that are typically centered on screen, and typically the data is not multi-column. It's stacked instead. So it's just a different style of layout. But the individual features on a page tend to be common across multiple styles and layout families. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Carol. He's got some questions to answer as well. Carol?
Thank you. Okay, I've got several of them, and let's go one by one. A question from Beth. Can version 9.2 and version 10.0 be installed on the same machine? Yes, of course. It's better install them on the same machine, because actually our licensing policy is that we license them per machine. And yes, of course, we can have them both there because they use different keys physically, so not a problem at all. I'm using Windows 7, .NET 4.0, SQL 2008 to Visual Studio 2010. Is Iron Speed 10 support this? Yes, of course it supports this. It supports .NET 3.5 and 4.0 and 4.5. It supports SQL 2008, 2005, 2012. It supports Visual Studio 2008, 2010, 2012. So this is perfectly supported. Just to make sure that you understand, and this is I actually wanted to mention because we found out that somehow this issue confused a lot of people. When you install .NET 4.5, you wouldn't be able to use your .NET 4.0 anymore. So you would need to change applications framework in this case. Why? Because Microsoft design changed, and now .NET 4.5 cannot coexist with .NET 4.0 in the same machine. If before you could have 4.0 and 3.5, for example, on the same machine, it's no longer the case. 4.5 replaces 4.0 effectively. So if you do that, then you lose your 4.0 framework, and you would need to migrate application to the new framework. It's really easy to do, but you just need to be aware of it. And because we've seen already several users who get confused over this new Microsoft design. If quick selector can be used to make model your dependencies? No, actually they are not, and the reason is very simple. If I go back to my designer page, designer application, and go, for example, to any page, let's say at products page, which we just saw a minute ago, at products page. Now, here is the deal. You can see that this guy, let me make properties, is rendered as a quick selector. Actually, let me switch the place of this guy so you can see that. Oh, properties, come on. Okay, I did it, and now it's difficult to get back. Okay, you can see that this is the quick selector, and we saw it on the runtime that this is a quick selector. So this is this type of the control, and if I move it back, quick selector control, the same with supplier. But the quick selector itself is a separate page. So you can see that category ID point into categories quick selector. So what it is in a nutshell is the separate page, here the page. This page has some literal which is populated with the query, and the query you can see here is the normal the query which has a where clause, which could have where clause, etc. So how would you do it as a make model year dependency? You would need to pass to this query your selection from the previous quick selector. It's not, I'm not saying it's undoable, but you would need to make some work on this. You would need to add an additional parameter and have this query accept this parameter. So it's kind of possible, but it's a bit more difficult to do than drop-down list, because you basically would need to create a new quick selector specifically for this particular implementation, and have this quick selector to accept additional parameter, add this new where clause to use this parameter. Again, there's no coding for it. It's all done through the wizards. Don't get me wrong. I don't need to write code, but that would require a bit more work comparing to dependent drop-down lists. And let's face it, in most of those situations, when you do not have a lot of items, drop-down list is actually a bit easier to use, because you kind of see immediately selection of your 100 or like 50 or 20 items. Is there licensing fees to Google for using Google Map created via Iron Speed? No, of course not. You're right. Google requires commercial use of Google Maps, but also it allows to have a certain amount of free calls. So right now, the API calls which we make to Google do not have any account, and this account, of course, you can purchase. So basically, my latest information that you can have about 2,500 API calls, whatever they are, for geocoding or for map usage per day. And over this, you would need to have an account. To create an account, you need to contact, of course, Google, and we have help, which will give you a link where you need to go to open an account. And when you have an account, all you need to do is supply your Google key right here in the web config and supply Google Client ID right here, and they will be used, and then it will become commercial. Right now, it's using the free until we hit the 2,500 limit. What is the benefit with Microsoft SQL 2012? Any performance improvements you can tell about? No, I haven't seen any performance improvement on the SQL 2012 so far. I know that Microsoft claimed that they fixed, and claimed as the emphasis on this word, they fixed certain bugs from 2008, and there are bugs in SQL 2008. We did not debug and verify these claims yet. Very possible it is true. Also, there are certain new functionalities, such as file table, or there is a new way of search in the full text search, such as semantic search. Iron Speed Designer does not use any of those new functionalities so far, and we have disclaimer about it on the system requirements page and the features page. However, one thing is definite. Actually, SQL 2012 improved performance of full-text search. Well, again, we didn't measure it, but we tend to believe that it may be true. So basically, if you ask me, is there any reason to switch to Microsoft SQL 2012, my personal opinion, not so much as of now, at least until the new R2 or Service Pack 1, Service Pack 2 will be out. But again, it's your choice. It's supported now, so we can use it and create application using the 2012. Is there any template where the menu can be shown on the left side and the open pages on the top where a user can see two pages at the same time, like customers and the category, etc.? Not out of the box. However, having two panels showing side by side is super easy to do. It literally takes you several seconds to do so. Basically, this is the page. Oops, sorry, clicked wrong page. I'm sorry. I moved it on mobile. I wanted to customers. You said customers, so let me go to customers. So this is my group by customers table page. If I want to show side by side with, for example, the categories, all I would do is I would go to the, oops, not the master page, of course, back to the top level of the page. So I will go here to my SPX page. Here is my panel for the customers. I can drag and drop from my toolbox, for example, as you said, categories. It's not related to customers, but I can drag and drop it. So my report for categories, I can drop it into the same cell, basically. And then I can surround them with the tab panel. So it's fairly gallery, or whatever, doesn't matter, gallery. And now if I wanted to be in a tabs, I can just surround them with tabs. Right here, insert, and I will say tabs. Now they will be surrounded by tabs. So basically you can switch between them and see one page or other page. So, but no, there's no out-of-the-box theme with this. And the reason for that is that we try to make pages oriented to the specific page, and all detail pages put in the convenient form into the tab. So we think that master detail layout is a bit better than side-by-side two unrelated tables. But again, it's up to you. You can do it. Last question I have right here is, can you compare Iron Speed with Code on Time? Well, easily. Iron Speed is better. This is a no-brainer question. If you ask why, I can tell you that it's indefinitely have richer functionality. We can have quick selector controls, add record pop-up, gallery page, two different gallery pages, pages for mobile devices, incredible flexibility of rearranging any controls as you want, arranging automatically your fields by semantics of those fields, like address together and phones together. Ability to set display F keys to configure how the foreign keys are shown, ability to add formulas to any field, and I can continue for half an hour, but I have one other questions. Thank you for this question.
Okay, I'll take a couple of questions here. John asks, can the width of the page be expanded to use the entire physical width of the computer display? If so, a great deal of information could be included on one page display. Yes, that's all controlled by the style sheet of your particular page style that you selected. So you can modify that really one of several ways. You can actually modify it at the theme level and then use that as you generate additional applications. Or you can modify that in the style sheet copy that's made for your individual application. And typically the best way to do that is to go into the base styles.css file. That's where you'll find all the style sheet class definitions. Copy the thing that you want to modify and put that into styles.css and make your modification there. The advantage of doing that is when you update your application in the future as we release new versions of Iron Speed Designer, then your modifications won't be touched and they will automatically override any changes or new things that we might have added in the new version of Iron Speed Designer. But yeah, that's clearly settable in the modern page style, for example. That family of page styles, we generally use 1,000 pixel wide page width, but you can set that to be anything you want. You can set it to be 500, 1,500, whatever. So in an environment where you have a better understanding of what your user screen can potentially look like, you can adjust it accordingly to anything you like. Eddie asks, is there any special modification to be done to use an Iron Speed Designer application in a table like the iPad? I assume you mean a tablet like the iPad. Also, is there any custom CSS that will resemble the iPad natural look and feel? Well, again, that's all controlled by the style sheet. So, for example, when you generate mobile pages in Iron Speed Designer, those ultimately use a different set of classes in the style sheet that are specifically designed to look good on a small form factor device like an iPhone or Android phone, that sort of thing. So you could easily construct your, adjust your style sheet classes to be optimized for a tablet like an iPad or similar medium form factor thing. You could even add additional style sheet classes to your style sheet that would adjust pages to look good on a tablet, and then just generate a separate set of pages for the tablet and change the styles in those generated pages to use these ones that are optimized for viewing on an iPad. So that's what I would do there. We may, in fact, in the future come up with additional page types that are optimized for kind of that 7 to 9 inch format. John asks, what progress has been made regarding many-to-many relationships? Well, quite a bit, actually, but not quite enough to cross the finish line and include it in 10.0, so that feature didn't make it into the 10.0 release, but we are at work on it. We weren't quite happy with where the implementation was when it came time for the release to go into QA, so hopefully it'll catch the next train out of the station. Carol?
Yes, thank you. We've got some more. Let's go through them quickly. May we see multiple column lookup field? I'm not really 100% sure I understand what you are talking about. I can try to think. I think that lookup field you mean quick selector, and for a multiple column, well, basically, let me go to any quick selector. Let's say let's go categories quick selector. Doesn't matter which one. So by now it shows me only one field, but I can go to my toolbox, trusted toolbox, and add, let's say, fields for categories. Let's say, what field do I do? I add just a category, let's say, I don't know, ID, right here. So now I've got two fields, and if I go to, let me build this thing. I have been making changes to different pages. Hopefully I didn't break anything. That usually happens on the webinars. You start answering questions and make unfinished changes here and there until everything stops working. So right now I want the categories quick selector. So basically what I will do is I would go to my admin section over here. Let it compile. Give me a second because I just rebuilt the application, so I need to recompile it again. And the first time, it usually takes time, and my computer is kind of pretty busy, as you can see by the amount of software running on it right now. So I want to go to my products. Okay, and let's say filter them by category. Oh, this is the wrong one. I want to go actually here. Let us see. So you see two columns. This is the second column. Of course, I might need to add some formatting because this guy occupied, looks like, all the place, and this is kind of squished to the end. But you got the idea. You can add anything you want, but when you change in design, maybe this will be better add to the same column. I mean, you might need to make some minor modifications to look pretty, but nothing difficult about it. Can additional fields be displayed in quick selector without affecting performance? Just did it, and performance will not be affected because basically it's the same exact query. This query can retrieve one field or two fields from the same database, and of the size of the field, it will be the same fast. I mean, no difference. Is it possible to have make model year in the filters area, I mean dependent drop-down list, when I try to modify data source query of the field drop-down, child drop-down list with the where clause of parent drop-down list, it generates error? Well, the answer is yes, but you would need to make sure that you have auto passback set to true to all of them, and it's kind of doable. We have webinars specifically for that, so we can attend to the foremost webinar where we show implementation of different make model year lists. When updating from version 9.1 to version 10, application will compile blah 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 blah. It has some error. I would not right now try to debug your application really. If you have problem with the migration to 10.0, I suggest you to open a support case at this time, and this is pretty short period for you. So I really recommend doing this now. We allow and handle support cases from the people who do not have support contract temporary. That's usually what we do after the release of the new version, because we want to be able to catch all possible bugs which we might miss. So we try to look at any issue. Generally, there is no problem migrating application 9.1 to 10.0, but if you have customizations, if you move to new framework, if you don't have an office or something else, there could be a problem. Again, open support case will look specifically on your application. The mobile user agent's key value in webconfig specifies iPod. Should it be spelled iPad? No, it actually should not, because iPod is the valid user agent, and to prove it, I specifically opened right here the Safari, and here are the user agents. And if you look at this list of user agents, here is your iPod Touch. So this is the valid user agent. iPad is also user agent, so they are all present over here. So it's not a misprint, it's actually user agent. Do quick selectors use SQL Server indexes or full text search? Yes, it's a normal page. It's the same type of query generated as you would generate for anything else. So if you have fields indexed, very nice, it will run faster. If you want to retrieve there a field which has a full text search indexing, it's very nice. The search will work faster. So yes, sure, of course, use both. Although in the one query generated, you use either full text search if it's enabled and or indexes. So meaning that when you search for it, the query cannot use both techniques. So if you have full text search enabled, it will use full text search. About reporting, how Iron Speed Designer handles scenario where there will be a bunch of users, let's say 10 or 20, generated the same report at the same time. Would they have any issues generating PDF file for each user? No, basically not. The only limitation is performance of your server, web server, where you're running it. Because when you generate PDF report, what happens is that application simply runs a query against database, and it could run the queries at the same exact moment. Basically, the only limitation there is your connection string. The default settings, default means when you did not change anything, allows 100 simultaneous connections at the same time to the database. So if you happen to have 200 users which open a page at exactly the same time, so you need to run 200 queries, then on the connection string you would need to specify that your pool is bigger than 100. It's easy to do, by the way, and we have help for that as well. Other than this, it's performance of your web server, because all what we do is we run queries against the database and then stream those PDF reports to your browser, and that's not a problem at all. Can you show me how I can add the table in tag on a page? I don't know what you mean in tag. Maybe I mean in tab, and I just shown that literally when I was answering questions before. You just insert new tabs, and that's about it. Do you have something else?
Okay, thanks. Mohammed asks, when can we expect Iron Speed Designer to support multilingual language, i.e. English and Arabic, from single application? Currently, we have to deal with two independent applications separately. That's a very good question. Iron Speed Designer today supports multilingual applications within the same text direction. So, for example, all of the European languages, for example, that read left to right, English, Spanish, French, Dutch, Norwegian, all of that can all be done in one language. The problem comes when you have a right-to-left reading language that you're trying to mix with a left-to-right reading language. One of the major issues that we've been grappling with, of course, is that the pages generated for each are actually different. It's not the same physical HTML or ASPX because we have different images, different GIFs that go in there based on whether it's left to right or right to left. We're trying to evolve to solve that in part by evolving to where we have a pure HTML page layout, right, where everything is all HTML, HTML5 sort of thing, and we don't have any extra, spacer images or curved corners or anything like that type of images that we need to include, and that would certainly reduce it, and that we've been slowly but surely working that way. But that has been an ongoing issue, and unfortunately, it's not an easy one to solve, but it is definitely on our radar. Eddie asks, about database schema, Iron Speed Designer generates stored procedures. Usually we create application on a local database. How do we synchronize the production database with changes when releasing an update to the customer? Well, there's a few ways to do that. That's actually covered in detail in the deployment section of the online help. So I recommend you go to the online help and read up on that because it goes through step-by-step what you need to do do that. The easy solution is to use our deployment wizard to create an MSI installer and then run that MSI installer on your production machine, and it'll automatically update the stored procedures for you. Now, if you happen to be in an environment where you're not able to run an MSI installer or you don't have access to the database, maybe your DBA is a fascist and he just won't let you near the thing, then pretty much what you'll have to do is just give him the payload of stored procedures and let him load that into the database. But assuming that's not an issue, then the easy way is the deployment wizard. But like I say, the step-by-step on that is all in the online help. Carol?
Yes. Let me piggyback on your answer about MSI installer. I just wanted to mention one important detail again. Microsoft developing their infrastructure supposedly for good, but in the framework 4.5 you won't be able to use MSI installer any longer because it's not supported by Microsoft any longer. Visual Studio 2012 and framework 4.5 do not have such functionality at all, and they have only publishing functionality, which is, on my opinion, is not as convenient as MSI installer. So you need to be aware when you upgrade to 4.5 framework what you're losing. And don't ask me why Microsoft does it. We are surprised ourselves, but that's the case. So deployment wizard in the 4.5 framework looks differently than in the 3.5 or 4.0. Less functionality. Now I have a question. Will you or can you go over any new functionality for mobile pages? Well, out of all we mentioned, certain features, of course, will relate to both mobile and web pages, such as ability to use several schemas, several different databases, obviously, geo-proximity or geo-sorting, exactly the same way because they're related to the queries we generate, not to the page type at all. So all the geolocation, etc. Of course, showing map on the mobile device it also is possible, although you need to make sure that it actually fits the device. But all of these will be exactly the same. There is no difference whatsoever. There's no new. Well, again, Amarone theme, of course, is available for the mobile page. In fact, I can easily go to my live preview over here and go to, let's say, the categories mobile table. Let me switch to live preview. So again, this new theme is available for the mobile. What else do we have? Quick selector is not something you would use or you can use on the mobile pages because basically there is no concept of, or at least we don't want to introduce concept of pop-up, modal pop-up for the mobile pages, so you still use the same selectors as you had before. But that's the only, so I would say the only thing out of all our new features which is not related to mobile is the new gallery page and the quick selector. Everything else is related. Does Iron Speed support displaying pictures from location on a storage device instead of storing pictures in database? Well, of course it does, and it always did. all you need to do is to configure the image URL on your image control pointing not to the database but to a specific location. In fact, our own applications which we create with Iron Speed Designer, such as Buckaroo, often use images which are not located in database and located on the file system. Also, you can have not necessarily need to hard code it by adding it as a property. You can have URL in the database, effectively, and designer is able to use this URL to navigate your picture and show it. So you have flexibility on this, and that's always was the case. It's not new. And I think I don't have any questions anymore. And if you don't send anymore in the next 10-15 seconds, we will call it a day because it's already 9 o'clock at our time, and we think we're already covered all the topics we actually wanted. Seems to be no questions. Well, then let's wrap it up.
Okay, I think that we've got one last question coming in.
Really?
Sorry, someone asked about if this video will be posted. We will post it in 2 or 3 days, so check back in a couple of days, and we hope to have it online on our video demos page. We do have a few more questions coming in here, so just bear with us while we accumulate those. This is the 2-minute warning, so to speak. Let's see, Beth asks, are you going to have additional course on 10.0? We have courses on our Iron Speed Designer product every week, every Friday. We have an introductory course. If you go to our training page, you can see all of the different courses that we offer. Typically, our courses always feature the latest version. So pretty much all the courses going forward will feature version 10.0. And so that includes the Designer 201, the intermediate course, as well as the Designer 30X series, which are all the advanced courses. Let's see here. Chris says, thanks. Quick Selector looks great. Yes, took quite a bit of time to do, but we think it's well worth it, and it really replaces something that was a little clunky to use in designer-generated applications with a much more contemporary type of feature. I'm going to let Carol answer the last question here.
Question from Mohammed. Can we expect Speed Designer to integrate applications with SharePoint list the same way as it does with the SQL tables? You can expect, but I cannot tell you when. You know, I can tell you that it's pretty high in our priorities for the new features list, and we put quite a bit of research in this area, and we kind of know what and how we want to implement it. But suffice to say, we didn't start this implementation yet. And very possible that's not something which would appear in our next release, because we have several things which we want to base on the technology we just introduced to develop it. It would be kind of not wise to stop halfway. But it is high on our priorities list, so I would say you can expect, I cannot promise you exact date for that and when it could be, but very possible it will be at some point.
Okay, I think that's it, folks. Thank you all for attending today. You guys asked a lot of really good questions, so that always makes it fun and interesting for us. And as always, if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager here at Iron Speed. That's what they're there for, is to help you as much as possible. Thanks very much for attending today, and have a great